doesn't matter if I'm there by myself or not, or if somebody's watching me or such, because I treat the place like I care about it and I own it. And you really never know who's watching, so having that integrity at all times is going to play a big role. But think about it, and I see AJ's nodding his head. I'm sure he agrees through his experiences. But think about that, when you'll never know when someone realizes that or when someone sees you doing that. That's going to play a huge role. Hey, I saw so and so. They were wearing a uniform that they wear in the restaurant. They'll call up your corporate VP. Hey, who's that? Oh, I don't know. Let me find. Oh yeah, that's one of our new hires. She's doing great, or he's doing awesome. Wow, I want to meet with them. I want to know what their aspirations are. Like, they will have their eye on you because they now have a perception of you. All that going positively for you can also turn it negatively for you very, very easy. I've worked in places where once they have a bad perception for you, it's impossible to turn it around. No matter how hard you work, you put in 6 days, 7 days, all the hours. But if you've created a bad perception through one way or another, that negativity almost surrounds you in a bubble that you've built for yourself. So early on, I learned perception was everything, and I didn't know that, and I certainly started off on the wrong foot originally. And thankfully, one of the leaders I worked for really helped turn that around for me, and continued to build that as I moved on. So you never know who's watching or who's keeping an eye on you and your success and what you want to be. I think what was super important to me of building that image for me was human resources, and I've never worked in HR, but I can tell you that your HR director or your HR VP is going to almost always have to sign off on your promotion, your raise, your next opportunity. But are you volunteering at the events they offer? Or are you helping out with when they need help? All those things go a long way, and they will remember, and you have that perception about you. So we talked a little about kind of quick snapshot, that being your image. I'll just touch a little bit about, Miriam recently graduated a few months back. She was at our board meeting at the Sahara, and she talked a little bit about, man, I really don't know, like, I feel like I'm steps behind because I'm just a front desk agent and I just graduated. And I shared with her that I was a front desk agent too when I graduated, in the exact same shoes as hers about 9 years ago now. And so I told her that 9 years, yeah. Yeah, where's the time gone, right?
Wow.
And I shared with her that's okay. So I landed an assistant manager position through the help of ECF at MGM Grand. I worked there for about 2.5 years, and then I moved on to GVR at Station Casinos, where I've been for a little over 6 years. I spent 4 years at GVR, and I've been at Santa Fe for a little over 2.5 years. And I'll just kind of touch a little bit upon some examples that helped me move up through the ranks that I think you can take on lessons in your current role and in your future roles. And what I think worked for me can really relate to what you may be experiencing right now and what you may experience in the future. Because I certainly was promoted too early, what I feel like, and I worked my way up through the ranks really, really fast. And then when I look back at it, people have shared with me and told me, hey, this is what I saw with you, this is what we liked about you. And I can tell you that some of those things I wish I knew earlier. I wish I knew when I was in your shoes, in your classes and such. So kind of a first example that I think will resonate with you. I was the manager at the pool at Green Valley Ranch. It's a large pool deck. I had a little bit of I use that word FaceTime, right, with my boss, the F&B director there. He reported to the GM of the property. She was very intense. Her expectation was that when she walked out on that pool deck, it was clean no matter what. If you had a record day out there, when she walked out, the expectation was that it was clean, which is very, very hard to do. Think about it. Let's say the 15 of us, 12 of us are out on the pool deck one day, and we all get up and leave at the same time, right? We all grabbed our stuff, we paid, we've left. How many towels and trash and dishes and plates are there? Tons, right? You were a large party leaves that bazaar, right?
Yeah.
It's a mess, right?
I've done the pool too at Golden Nugget during the summer.
It's a mess.
Like,
Yeah. The GM's expectation was when she walks out there that it's clean. And so I began to strategize because, of course, I wanted her to walk out there, one, to see me and know that it's clean. That pool had 3 entrances you could enter from, so you never know when you would see her. And she'd walk out there maybe once a month. Of course, in the middle of the heat, I caught on to her patterns of which way she would walk the pool deck, what times, usually in the later evenings when the 115-degree heat dies down. So that walkway she walked, I would walk that same path every day. So if I was the GM and I entered from here, what would she see? Oh, there's a towel there. There's a bag of chips there. There's dishes there. That's what she's going to see if she walks out here. And so I made it a point that when she walks out, that no matter how busy it was, that pool area was clean and that she saw me. So you can't be everywhere at all times, right? It's a large area, no matter who you are. You need support and such, and you need to know who's out there and who's keeping an eye on you. So the lifeguards were kind of the first point of entry from any entrance where you walk the pool deck, and I told them, and they knew who the GM was, they would see her. I said, when you see the GM, you get on the radio, we all had radios, and the code word was towels on deck. Towels on deck, that means the VP is here. So I'll give you an example. I'm at the pool deck all day, 10, 11 hours a day. I'm helping my team out, booking cabanas, dealing with guest opportunities, the kitchen's backed up, whatever it might be. In the evening time, I also have office work to do my orders, inventory, schedule, discipline, check time cards, right? Well, if it's 7 o'clock and she happens to walk out there for, it's quick, 5 to 10 minutes, that's it, and she doesn't see me, and she doesn't walk out there for the next 2 months, you know what her perception is? I never see so-and-so when I go out to the pool deck. I never see Vildan Buric. But you could be busting your ass every single day, 10, 11 hours a day, but they missed you one time, and they think they never see you out there. Oh, so-and-so's never out there when I go out there, or when I go out there, it's a mess. So I don't know what's going on out there. They won't tell you, they'll tell your director. When I go out there, it's a mess. And they will come down, hey, so-and-so walked the pool, and every time they come out here, it's trash all over the place. Even though they might have caught you on a bad time, they didn't see you, right? So when that code word would come in, towels on deck, whatever, if I was doing something in the office, if I was in the bathroom, I'd stop and just go out to the pool deck and just look busy. Clean up the pool deck, make eye contact with them. If I see her walking one way, I, on purpose, go towards that direction. Hi, how you doing today? Oh, how was your day? Oh, it was great, we've been super busy, whatever, right? Oh, great, everything, just because she sees you doing out there, she would say, oh, everything looks great, even if it didn't. But the perception was, oh, every time I go out there, oh, they're on the floor, they're helping their team, they're talking to the guests, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? Only because they go out there 10 minutes a day, once a month, once every 2 months maybe. And that's it, you have that one snapshot of your image in a sense. So after the pool season, I remember what happened. They told me, hey, if you do a good job at the pool, we'll find kind of the next best thing for you. If you do an okay job, we'll throw you back out there for another season. And if we don't think you're the right fit, we'll let you off, because it was a seasonal position. So end of pool season rolls around, and she pulls me into her office, the GM does, and says, hey, I think you've done an awesome job out there. Every time I've gone out there, the places look clean, the pool has made tons of money this year. I want to throw you as the assistant GM in our steakhouse here at property. I was shocked first, because I had never worked fine dining before. I owned one suit for interviews, and I knew nothing about fine dining, wine, and spirits. So I'll kind of transition that into a little bit kind of what the next steps were for me, and what I think you can take on from, if someone gives you that opportunity, how to accept it and how to continue to grow from that. But does anyone kind of have any questions on kind of the pool shenanigans?
It had to be a fun job though, right?
It was a really fun job. It was a hard job, but it was really fun.
Right.
I've noticed something similar because, like, I work at the buffet at the South Point.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I wish I knew like where Michael would walk by, but it seems like every single time, like, oh, he'll come in through the side entrance. Oh, he'll come in through the back side station. So it's like he kind of keeps you on your toes a little bit to make sure like you're always doing what you need to do. But I mean, like, we all do what we need to do regardless. But it's kind of, I like how you guys had like a code word. Yeah. So we kind of have something similar. Like we have our
What's
radio.
Michael's code word?
We don't have a code word for him because usually like he doesn't have anything negative to say. But we always have certain customers that are a bit harder to deal with. So we'll have a code word for them if we see them. We're like, oh, gray cap guy is here. Oh, white shirt guy is here, type of thing.
Did your GM Ryan walk by a lot?
I've actually never seen him before.
Oh, okay.
So I wish I could say
he's
I
got a
do.
perception of you, I'm sure, when he sees you sometimes.
Yeah, I've never seen him, but then again, I'm always busy doing.
You're a
what I
host,
do.
right?
Yeah.
It's probably at the equestrian center.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think about like your assistant managers there, right? That are on the floor a lot. They have to step away too sometimes, right? For whatever it might be. Maybe it's, hey, I forgot to put an order. I need to put something by, and someone walks by and like, oh, where? I'm sure they've asked you before. Hey, where's so and so at? Oh, I don't know. They stepped away, right? You know, all leaders are going to be different, but that was my experience, and that GM I had was really, really intense, but really, really rewarding, because after that, she gave me that opportunity and another one to follow. But thanks for sharing that, Claire. I'm glad that kind of resonates with you. So.
Very similar.
We have the same thing too when like Anthony's walking in, we'll like announce it because like the rest of the directors, like Anthony walks in through the front, but like the other directors, they'll come in through like the back door sometimes, and like they'll just casually be walking the dining room. We have to like announce it over the radios really quick.
That's funny to hear. So some things never change, clearly. So that's kind of about pool stuff and such. So a couple things that kind of resonate a little bit with the pool, I'll give you another specific example, but things you can take anywhere is be curious, ask questions, involve yourself. With whatever it might be. Hey, I see you're working on. Hey, chef, I see you're doing that. I mean, how do you? I would tell my chef, hey, I see you're working on butchering the fish. What portion is it? Oh, for the fish tacos, we do 1 ounce, 1.5 ounce. Oh, for the entree dish, for the salad, it's 6 ounces of fish. I would always ask questions, no matter who was working on, even if it didn't involve me. Hey, what is that you're running? Can you show me that? Oh, so that's how that works. And you will learn such an amazing knowledge of how other departments work and how that affects you. All I knew was, here, I need to order Bud Light for the pool. I would order the Bud Light, I'd put in the system, hit enter, and I don't know what happens after that. But once I started spending time with inventory control and purchasing, you learn the full circle. Okay, so I key in that order. That goes to the purchaser. They send a PO to the vendor. The vendor gets it. They ship the product. Oh, well, what days does that product come in? Am I going to get Bud Light tomorrow? Am I going to get it the next day? Is it something in the warehouse? Is it a unique product that has a long lead time? Or hey, this vendor ships to our property Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Some vendors are not going to come to your business every single day. Some will. Oh, okay, so I better plan. If I order this today, it'll come in 2 days or it'll come in 3 days. What happens then after that? Oh, okay, so the purchaser keys in the order. It goes to the vendor. The truck shows up with the product. The warehouse checks it in. They sign for it. They bring you paperwork. You sign it. That paperwork goes back to invoicing. They process it. Then that goes to accounts payable. The company has check cutting days. They don't send checks every single day to the vendors. But it's amazing all that what you can learn when you really involve yourself in the intricacies of kind of just what you do and how that translates to the next steps, right? So I would just say just be curious, ask questions, involve yourself. That went a long way with me. I worked with a lot of chefs that when I asked questions, they would come off as they were very impatient, but they found that, wow, I never had someone ask me these questions. I wish my cooks were like this. I wish more people asked me these questions. I love sharing my 20 or 30 years of culinary knowledge. Nobody just seems to ask these kind of questions before. So I would just say involve yourself. And then, we talked a little bit in the morning about thinking business-minded, thinking entrepreneurially. When you are in your current roles, someone will see something in you. You will be an assistant manager soon. You will be an assistant pastry chef, and so on and so forth. They will see that you have something to offer, and your roles and responsibilities, all that will change. But just keep in mind that we work in a for-profit business, and your boss and your VP and your director will look to you to make financial progress. So I'll give you an example that just happened to be from the pool, and then kind of a recent one we worked on. So, in this new Instagram age where everything's, we're posting pictures of what we're eating, what we're drinking. Out at the pool, we served cocktails in pineapples. So your pina colada would get poured into a hollowed out pineapple, and on the outside, we would garnish it with raspberries and blueberries. It would look really pretty. The pineapples we bought from a vendor, they would come direct, already hollowed out. Pineapples hollowed out like that were about $4.50 a pineapple. The upgrade to that, so your pina colada was, call it $10. Well, to get it in a hollowed out pineapple was an additional $10. So if we get it for about $5, we'd sell it, get an additional $5 out of it. Call that 50% margins or 50% costs. Not great by any means. And that was going on. Yeah. And that was going on, and I got there and I was like, man, why don't I just buy a whole pineapple for $1 a piece, and I will core out the center of it. And I started doing that. I went to the restaurant store right down the street that's open to the public. I bought a pineapple core for $10. And I went over there and I told my team, hey, from now on, the hollowed out pineapples, they won't be arriving anymore. You see this tool? You cut off the top of the pineapple and you core it out. I'm going to show you how to do it. And of course, oh, really? No, we got to do this, right? They whined about it. Think about every single pineapple that went out. The original cost was $5. Now it's $1. $4 savings on every single pineapple. That pool probably saved $50,000 in pineapples that summer. I came up with that by myself. I took that idea to my boss. He shared that with the GM. I was like, wow, that was one of the successes that really helped me in that pool season. My boss shared that with the pool manager at Red Rock, the pool manager at Sunset Station. There's 6 properties in their portfolio. That probably saved the company $200,000 that summer. But really thinking entrepreneurially, financially, I think of the TV show Shark Tank, right? When you are in your current roles and in your future roles, they will look to you to make financial impact changes. And if you can, that will be the difference between you moving up quickly or, hey, maybe they have a little bit more to work on. A lot of the ideas I think you can pick up is knowing your business, which I talk a lot about, and then knowing your competitors, knowing what someone else is doing. I can't tell you how many ideas I've stolen from other places that Hey, my boss didn't know. I didn't tell him where I got it from, right? Hey, what do you think about this? I heard there's some great success with this, right? But knowing what your competitors are doing, right? So I work in Centennial Northwest at Santa Fe. I know what's going on at Aliante, the casino that's 10 minutes away. I know what's going on at Suncoast that's 10 minutes away. I look to see what they're charging, how they're going about it, to see if I can pick up a better idea or if I can take one of their ideas and improve upon it. But you really need to own your business and be involved with it and think financially and creatively.
If I can add one thing.
Yeah, please.
Easy to do if you think that that business is actually yours and not somebody else's. So if you think that you own that steakhouse or if you own that pool, what would you do? Instead of just clocking in, clocking out, think about how you can generate additional revenues and profit. I think that's how you gotta look at it, right? So instead of I work in a major company, I get a great benefit and I collect, salary, I can't wait to get the heck out of here so I can enjoy my weekend. Instead of thinking like that, what can I do to bring additional value, which means it'll help you grow the company. And if everybody think like that, then think about how successful that company is. And I think, it's a living proof here that Vildan thinks that way, and that's the reason why he was on the fast track.
Any thoughts?
I have
Yes.
a question.
Yes.
How are you getting this information from other casinos? Because you said you knew, like.
So I go on their website and I look at their menus, right? I'm in
Oh.
restaurants, so I just browse, right?
Oh, okay.
Hey, what are they selling it for? I ask my boss, right? I get some help. Hey, I want to go shop. I want to do a competitive shop at so and so. I'm going to go try 3 restaurants this week. He's like, yeah, no problem. I pay for it there and I expense it out the property. And I go and I sit and I watch and I observe. Hey, I like their pictures, or I like the way they're doing this, or I picked up on this. One of the things we've been studying hard is to-go fees. And you work at South Point, you guys don't allow to-go at Oyster Bar, for example, and Steak and Shake, right? So I'll give you a different kind of strategy of what we do. So guest comes up to order completely to-go. They don't want to sit in. There's a packaging cost to it, right? The to-go boxes there's a cost to it, right? The to-go box, the bag and such. So we started charging before 99 cents. And with inflation, everything's gone up. We looked at our competitors and we said, hey, we think we can go $1. So you come up to order to go, $1.99. For the to-go order. Doesn't matter if the to-go order is $10 or it's $500. The competitors that I've shopped, that was a hot topic and a good question, Claire, is they do 10% of the order. So if your order is 4 entrees at $25, it's $100. The to-go fee is $10. Steep,
Almost
right?
Like a service charge.
Yeah, almost like a service charge. Yeah, 10%. We would do $1.99 flat rate, and it's something you have to evaluate every 3 months, every 6 months. But you gotta go. You gotta go. Like tomorrow night, I'm going to Aliante because. Excuse my language, those assholes took their prices off the menu online to make my job difficult. So now I have to go down there and
You were shopping.
yeah. Right. Hey, can I see one of your menus? Go take a picture of it. I'm not gonna go eat. I'm just going down there because the price of steaks has gone up again, and I need to see what they're selling their steaks at, and see if we can find a couple more dollars to add to ours, but still be maybe at the same price as them or less than them, and still be kind of in competitors' range. But good question.
I
You
just
got it.
didn't realize it was that simple, just looking at the menus. I thought you had like an inn or something. I don't know.
Well, it's actually a good question, Claire. I think what's great with Epicurean, especially like Michael, I talk to him all the time, and I ask him, I shared with Greg and Melissa earlier, I'm like, hey, what challenges? Like, these are some of the challenges I'm having. Are you seeing the same thing? Oh, I have the exact same thing. I'm like, okay. So I know I'm not talking crazy, or I know I'm not going crazy, but it's nice to have that network and such, and ask each other and ask your peers, hey, are you seeing this? Or I'm having some trouble with this, or what are you doing with this? Or we're opening up this kind of concept. I see you did this before. I mean, how did that work out for you? That helps a lot. But if you don't know, you just go, right? And it takes effort, and it kind of ties into AJ's point. Like you treat the business like you own it. I worked for a family business before I got into hospitality, and that's how I got that pride in me, because my parents did own it, right? And that's how it was. If it didn't do well, I didn't eat, right? And so just having that mindset when you go in, that you're the pool manager, you own the pool. What would you do if you were that pool manager? How are you going to grow the business? How are you going to make sure that the guest out there has a good experience? But good
So I
question.
can add that one more point too. Is you gotta be really careful when you do competitive shopping, because if you have a friend that's working there and you start colluding, you could get in trouble with price fixing and collusion. So you can't directly ask and say how much you sell and then you get the same price. You can get in legal trouble. So you want to be competitive, but you don't want to be exactly the same, and every menu has to be different.
And there's actually a lawsuit going on in town right now with the
Yeah.
hotels that they colluded all with each other on price fixing the hotel rooms all along the strip.
That's what I was gonna ask about, if it was sort of frowned upon to go to another casino and kind of.
No,
get
it's
some
okay to
ideas.
shop. It's not okay to sit down with a competitor and talk about the price and say, hey, everybody sell steak at $20, right? That's illegal.
Okay.
But to go and shop, it happens. I mean, I see people
This happens all the time.
from Boyd Gaming at the competitor where I work at all the time on property.
As long as you're not directly speaking with like the food and beverage director there, right?
Yeah, so like, I used to work for PepsiCo, right? I couldn't sit down and have brunch with Coke guy. So, all right, what are you gonna be selling, Coke this month, right? You can't do that. You can go to jail for that.
I don't know, there's a huge legality.
Oh,
Let's think about it like even at your school, when you're in school, you guys can sit down and do study groups. You can sit down and say, hey, what do you think about this class? But you can't do the same, you can't sit down and be like, let's do this test together. Let's figure out the answers together. It's very much the same, it's just now it's in business.
But it's a big deal. The price fixing is huge.
Anyone else have any comments, questions?
So, right now I have this opportunity at my new job, and since before I was a pastry cook, and now I'm working as a kitchen chef slash sushi chef at my new restaurant. They're asking me on ideas on desserts, and pretty much for this month, I've started making like a strawberry and pomelo tart, and I was telling them like how to like make a tart shell and like the costing for it as well. So is there like how do I make use of this opportunity to like, try to do more with my knowledge?
I think, well, it's great that you've been tasked with that, but when you present it, present kind of the full package recipe with costing for every ingredient, method, how to make it, what your proposed price would be on the menu, and a picture. And do that like in a template, right? So here's a picture of the dish, here's every ingredient that's in it, here's how to make it, here's how much it costs, here's how much I would put it on the menu for, this is what the food cost is, this is what the margins would be. And you do that for every single item, and you print it out in color, and maybe do it like in a little notebook or a binder and sheet protectors and make it look nice. Like, hey, this is the dessert menu. So if a new sushi cook came in here and didn't know anything about it, this tells them A to Z very, very simply exactly how they could make it. I could train everyone. You haven't built a dessert menu, you built a whole training portfolio of how to train the entire restaurant on how to make that menu.
Okay, so pretty much just presentation and just like making sure like everything is exactly how I'm putting it in.
Yeah, like, I don't know if they have like recipe cards where you're currently working now, like on stations, do they have that, or no? Okay, so think about it, you've hired a new cook, right, and you're gonna go put them on the sushi station, and there's 10 different roles, whatever, right, it doesn't matter. How do they know what ingredients it is, how the dish should look on the plate? So when they put the plate up in the window, the chef's like, yep, that's exactly the presentation, that's the spec, how it should look. You put together a recipe book, a Bible, or a binder, right? And it says, this is exactly how this dish is meant to be presented, right? How you would present it, and how a new cook would come and learn it. Shows them exactly the ingredients, the recipes, and then, great, this is what I need to make it, here's how you build it, right? I don't know how to make sushi, so I couldn't tell you that, right? But you would have a build method on there, how these are the equipment you need, roll it, whatever it might be, right? Garnish it like this, and a picture of how it would look on a plate, so that when your new cook puts that plate up in the window, the chef is like, perfect every time. You built a whole new training manual, not just for the dessert station, but almost for the entire restaurant there. You should have recipe guides or recipe specs on every single station of every single dish of how that's made. Because what happens a lot in our business is someone new starts, hey, I'm paired up with AJ, start showing them how to make that, right? Oh, AJ's not there tomorrow, AJ's leaves, AJ's sick, whatever it might be. Okay, I'll pair it this way. And the guest comes in one day, it's like, well, yesterday was better, it was different,
Everybody
right?
cooks it differently too,
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Yeah, but you've now created a whole a menu and a training Bible for a new cook. Hey, I could train every single new person that comes in here with this Bible exactly how to make it.
And it's consistent.
Anything to add to that?
And it's consistent, right?
This is
Yeah. I'm surprised it's not there already.
That's why me too. That's why I asked. Yeah. But you should have that in my opinion, on every station in a restaurant.
thank you.
You're welcome. So I kind of moved on to Hank's, and I think a lesson I want to share is investing in yourself. Warren Buffett says that a lot, is kind of one of the most important things and one of the most noteworthy things you can do, right? It almost kind of shares the same philosophy as study abroad of how much you'll learn out there, right? You're making an investment in yourself of taking that sacrifice away from family here for 5 weeks, 10 weeks and such, but investing in yourself is the best investment you can make. and I'll share. So I finish up at the pool. I go into the steakhouse, right? I don't really know what I'm doing, to be honest with you. It's Kelly would always tell me, hey, if they offer you a job, you take it, even if you don't know what to do, and then you go learn how to do it once you get that job. I didn't know what I was doing. I had great leaders. I asked a lot of questions. I was curious. And then I figured out what my weaknesses were, and I began investing in myself. So I jump in that role. I understand kind of the policies and procedures of the company, kind of the basic floor management, orders, disciplines, those kind of things. But what I realized is I didn't really have the technical skills for that job, especially when it came to learning different kinds of steaks, spirits, sake, beer, wine. So I just involved myself with the chef. Hey, show me how you butcher the steaks. Some steaks come in whole, we butcher them. Some already come cryovac, right? They're already individually portioned. And then specifically when it came to the bar, I didn't know much about wine. So first thing I did was bought a wine book right away. As soon as the GM told me I was getting that job, I bought a wine book. And although I was out of college, it didn't mean that the learning would stop. It only meant that it intensifies after that. A little bit different because now your boss is up your ass and says, hey, I need this today, and by the way, you might not have a job tomorrow if you don't have it, right? And so I began taking courses for wine, beer, spirits, and from what I remember, UNLV curriculum still has a couple of those, which I would recommend for anyone kind of going into the restaurant world. Bruce and Jason are at Southern Wine and Spirits. When you turn 21, they have an awesome academy there. Some are one-day courses, some are 1 week. The wine one is a 12-week course that I took there when I went into the steakhouse. And what's crazy is all that time you spend investing in yourself, you don't realize when it pays off, and sometimes you feel like it hasn't paid off. And that's kind of what happened to me. I'm in that steakhouse for about 5 months or so, and the GM approaches me again and says, hey, I'm creating a new position here on property and I want you to have it. And that position was a director of beverage position. So I oversaw the pool and then the cocktail floor where you see all the cocktail waitresses and the bartenders. I had just finished that wine course, and I felt like I was really confident and ready to tackle that steakhouse as the assistant GM and be the GM. And now I was going to run the bars and the pool, and while I needed to know a little bit about what I had learned, what I was going into was really extensive knowledge of how to pair steaks with wine. So I'm not going to be selling any steaks in the cocktail world, right? So it was almost in a sense like, well, I invested in myself and now this happened, but it was a blessing in disguise because I got this opportunity because they had a perception, they saw that while I had some certain weaknesses, I took the time to learn and build upon those. What's amazing is I didn't really use those skills for the next year, and then 3 years later, when I was promoted to the director of food and beverage at Santa Fe Station, the first person I had to hire was the steakhouse manager. And now I look back on that knowledge I had from those wine courses, and I said, wow, now I'm gonna ask them, hey, what kind of wine would you pair with a fillet, a ribeye and such? But if I didn't take that, I wouldn't be able to ask those questions. I could ask them, they could be bullshitting me, and I wouldn't really know what I'm talking about. So it was strange how that worked out, but I always share with Tony, what you're learning now, you never know when it will pay off for you in the future. It will build upon the thing you learn in the next year, and you in your senior year, right? You think about what you learn, your freshman year builds upon your next year, and so far. The skills you're learning now will pay off in the future when you least expect it, and at least they did for me. And kind of to that point, you just never know when it's your turn, and when that'll come full circle for you. So. Your thoughts, AJ?
Well, I mean, the learning never stops, right?
Yeah.
So the schoolwork, I think it's great, but I always said, how many times are you gonna use calculus when you get out of school? Right? It's more about positioning yourself to be successful in your later life, and social interaction. It's getting yourself out of your comfort zone and really, making yourself humble. When senior leaders look at you coming out of school, they don't expect you to know everything. It's impossible to know everything, right? So on-the-job training is important, but the fact that Vildan went out of his way to take it upon himself to learn and grow, I think that shows volume, and I think that senior recognizes that, senior management. So that's why he was able to move up so quickly. So don't think that, your career is just a job. Your career is your life, your livelihood. It's your future. So you want to invest as much time and energy into it as possible. And having an open mind is key to learning. You can learn from little kids as well as older people, but there's a lot of life lessons that come by that if you don't have your eyes open, it'll just go by. and you won't really realize it. I'll give you a quick example. I was out playing golf 2 weeks ago. My brother-in-law was in town from Korea, and we went to, it was just he and I, and we pair up with this lady and a gentleman from Salt Lake City, African American gentleman who used to play football in BYU, and then a white lady. She wasn't that good, but I've never seen anybody so patient with their spouse. And I thought they recently got married. No, they've been married for 7 years. So, after 7 years, you would think that there'd be a lot more candid, but he was incredibly patient, and I'm like, man, I need to have more patience. And I think having patience is key too. So, just have an open mind and constantly be curious, hungry for knowledge. And you could be 60, 70 years old, and you can still learn something from a 5-year-old kid.
That's a really good topic that you mentioned about patience. So I kind of take some time to learn new things and stuff. So I kind of need patience from other people on me because I'm not the brightest person in the room, right? So I need people to have patience with me. But at the same time, it's kind of hard for me to have patience with other people. So it's good that you said that because I need to teach myself to have patience with other people, just how people have patience with me as we're learning. So I try to be empathetic with other people that are learning, and that we're in the same shoes as I was. So I try to be kind of the same teacher as the teachers that taught me in a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's a really good topic that you mentioned.
That's a good point too.
And to add to that, I remember I wish I could go back some of the courses at UNLV that I would have gotten more out of, but I wasn't that interested in them. So I didn't do well in them. I didn't give my 100%. And I hadn't learned yet to be curious and ask questions and involve yourself. That came at a later time, but I wish I would have in some areas paid a little bit more attention, worked a little bit harder, and not regret it today. Man, I wish I would have worked a little bit harder in that class, or I wish I would have involved myself in something I wasn't so interested in, because that time will go by and you will remember, man, wow, what was that like? Or what did we do in that? Because you will get out, I always tell Tony, you will get out what you put into it. And in some areas, I didn't put in all that much effort because I wasn't interested. It just happened to come back 10 years later, and now like, man, I really wish I would have put a little bit more effort in those areas that, some classes we like more than others, right? We're more interested in some things than others. So for those who kind of want to continue to grow up and move up in the ranks, there's a lot of times when you're being tested, in a sense, a little bit different from perception. I'll give you an example. You're an assistant chef, or you're an assistant manager. Your boss, the manager, the room chef, the executive chef, whatever, the GM, doesn't matter, leaves, transfers, moves on to another opportunity. That position is now open. There's 2 of us, me and AJ, right? We're both assistant managers. We both want the job, okay? Or maybe one wants a job, one is kind of happy to be there, or there's 3 of us for it. It doesn't matter, right? Sometimes they will leave the position open a little bit for a few weeks to see which one of us steps up and begins to do the next person's job. They're doing the job without the pay, without the title, without the credentials, but they have taken ownership and done it and asked questions. Hey, I know that every Monday the GM would put in the orders for the rest of the week. That was something they handled. I'd go to their boss. I'd go ask someone else. Hey, I want to make sure we don't miss anything because I don't want to run out of product for this weekend. How do you do that? They would show me. Hey, the GM would handle the discipline. We didn't do any disciplines. I need to suspend someone tomorrow. What's the process for that? How do I go about that? They are testing you and seeing who is going to rise to the occasion during that time when there's nobody. That happens sometimes, and certainly happened to me. And 2 or 3 weeks would go by and say, hey, are you interested in the position? I know you've been doing a lot and you've been covering well. We'll be looking for the best candidate, but we haven't realized that you can do the job. You've already been doing it. We just need to teach you some of those few skills to be in that position. But just know that when there's an opening like that, it's your time, whether you get the position that time or not. You have a short time period there to really show that you want the spot, and what are you doing now to go above and beyond to earn that next position when that spot is open. And on the contrary to that, I can tell you that many times when there's openings in our business, they are looking for a pipeline. Hey, if I lose so-and-so, who can I fill next in that role? Or if so-and-so promotes to that or transfers to another property, who can I promote next in that role? I had no idea. That's what happened to me in the steakhouse, right? It was lucky timing, but that they say luck is when hard work kind of meets opportunity, right? And that certainly I got lucky with that. So-and-so left, I was presented with the opportunity. You never know when they are eyeing you and oh, so-and-so is interested in moving up. let's keep them in our pipeline. And they'll know, you won't know, hey, so-and-so will be transferring in the next 2 months. They're already working it out with another property. You have no idea that's happening. They are looking at you, hey, let's see how they do in the next month. If they do well, we're gonna tell them that the position's opening up and we want them to be interested in it. That's what happened to me also as well. I took a few days off to go visit a friend in New York City. I came back, my boss pulls me in the office. I was like, oh, what happened? I was gone for 4 days. Oh, hey, the assistant director is going to be leaving the palace. She's getting promoted to the director, and I want you to have that spot, so I hope you want it. That's how the conversation went. Great, I guess I want it. I mean, what I didn't know what to say, but it was very clear that there was a pipeline and that they are looking for the next leaders, and they will have their eyes on you, on what you're doing now and how you're building yourself ready to go to the next steps. Whether you think it's happening or not, it's happening. And it caught me by surprise many times, but I think it's important to note that.
And can I just piggyback off that? Sometimes when you're in these first entry-level hostess jobs, you don't realize that you're actually creating a brand that speaks for how hard you work, your dedication, that you think, oh, I'm just making milkshakes on the line. People are watching you, and if you start moving up, they're going to remember that you gave it your all no matter what position you were doing. So just remember, you are still and continuously building your brand, and it is a very small hospitality industry. So with what Vildan's saying, it starts now. It's already started.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about kind of investing in yourself, and my reference is a little bit of a sports reference, as Tony's heard me talk about. But is anyone into sports, watches sports, like sports? So
What kind of sports?
any sport, doesn't really matter. The reference is good
Is
for any.
shopping a sport?
Well, sure. Any sport really, but so my reference is kind of like, why did Michael Jordan become the greatest basketball player, right? Because how did he distance himself from the competition? He invested in himself, practice, put the hours in the gym, right? You are going to graduate with, I don't know how many are in the graduating class, 500, 1,000, 2,000 hospitality students. You are going to graduate with them. There's only so many of the executive chef jobs, the executive meeting planners, the HR directors, and so on. You are competing with the next 1,000, 2,000 kids. And it ties into what Melissa's saying. What are you doing today now to distance yourself from that? There's a competition out there, and I always used a sports reference, right? How did Michael Jordan got into the league as a rookie, right? He got out of college. What did he do then to distance himself and be a better player than his teammate, than his whole team, and then eventually in the whole league, and now to be considered the greatest basketball player? Same thing for you. You are distancing yourself from the kids in your classrooms that you're in now. When you get out of classrooms at your work, you're competing for the job that you both want, right? And how are you creating, those lessons and doing the things today, investing in yourself and in the future to separate yourself and distance yourself from the competition? So it's never, they're 50-50, they're equal. Oh no, there's a clear-cut candidate that's better than the others that I want for the job. So I use that sports reference because kind of perfecting and mastering your craft will get you to that next level. So I talked a lot about financials and stuff, and then recently on our ECF call, we talked about kind of doing like a book club and such, and I knew this was coming up, so I had asked Melissa to order these books, which will kind of relate to a few topics that I've touched about. It's a very short read, and you guys can kind of look at it. Very short. It was what the COO at Station Casinos gave me many years ago as this book, and in our business, I was tasked a lot with kind of making a guest experience a wow moment. And I can tell you that I am the least creative person that you have probably met. And I'm like Greg, I'm Excel and data and numbers and statistics. And if my boss is like, hey, I need you to make an extra $100,000, I will break it down into $1,000 a piece. This idea is $7,000, this idea is $13,000, and so on and so forth. But if he says, I have a guest coming in next weekend and they're a huge gambler, I need you to do something for them, I don't even know what to do for them. I'm lost. So this book right here, though, touches a little bit about how to be extraordinary with just putting in a little bit of extra effort. And there's very, very specific examples of people from all over jobs. The first example is about a mailman. And that first example, when you read that, I think you'll be like, wow, like there's no creativity needed there to make someone's a wow moment. And in the business, you're gonna have to do that. The pastry world, right? Hey, I got a VIP guest. I need a VIP dessert. They've already had everything on the menu. What can you do? I can do it for them because I wouldn't even know what to do for them. Here, I'll give them one of everything. That's what I would tell them. They've already had it, right? But this book was awesome for me, at least, of how to make an impact, how to do more than just what's expected of you if you're not creative, just by putting in a little bit of extra effort. And there's some great inspiration and some great examples to show you that. So I hope you spend some time reading it. Let me know what you think of it.
Well, I would love, as sort of you're saying, book club, to read this and then maybe come back together and have some coffee and talk about it a little.
That'd be
If you're-
great.
if you're
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, absolutely.
You as well, if you want to join us. But yeah, that's
So I think
You
the
know-
common theme here though is that, we're surrounded by major company casinos, but the casino is really not a gambling business, it's people business. So they are constantly looking for the next leaders, tomorrow's CEO. And you're doing yourself injustice if you're not talking about your future with your boss or your HR. You don't wanna constantly talk about it, but when you do a semi-annual meeting or when you do annual meeting, you say, here's where I wanna end up 5 years from now, or this is what I wanna do a couple years from now. And you need to make sure that they understand exactly what you wanna do and where you wanna go, because you own your own career. They don't owe you anything. The company brings you in and give you an opportunity. It's up to you to seize those moments and decide how you wanna take that opportunity and make it bigger and better for yourself. So think about your goals and what you wanna accomplish as you move through these ranks,
well, and it starts now. And I remember, you all come in as one, and Tony was paired up with Vildan, and I said, who wants to take Monday Stark as a leadership position? And Tony's like, I've never been in a leadership position for ECF, but tell me what to do. I'm in. I'm willing to learn. And so now, I've sat there at board meetings and said, like, Tony is really, I said to Vildan as well, Tony is really stepping up. I am really impressed with the hard work, the questions, and so conversations are happening. And I'm just using this as a small piece, but it's the same thing at work, that people are still recognizing and they're talking, and when your name comes up again, you're going to be remembered as, let me have a conversation with Tony. He really worked hard. He had never done a raffle, silent auction, any of that stuff before, but he was willing to learn. So just by differentiating yourself, by volunteering for something that, hey, can anybody, do the 5K run on the weekend? Or, hey, HR is doing a book club. Just by showing up, you're starting to brand yourself as a person who shows up, who raises their hand, who steps up. And that's the person you want in leadership. And you might think like, well, I'm just making milkshakes. That's the person I want in leadership. And so being the best at making milkshakes is going to eventually make them think that's the best VP that we can have out there. So just recognize that what you're doing now really does get recognized. And so I think sometimes I always thought that was a job for future Melissa, and nothing is a future Melissa. Future Melissa is actually now, and that's the person that I'm creating and branding.
You want the guest to show up and says, hey, is Johnny working? I love the way that he makes the milkshakes. I only want the milkshakes from him. You want that to be you, right? And kind of to like AJ's and Melissa's point, kind of the topic, right? No one owns you anything and such, but you have a great pipeline with ECF, right? I got my first assistant manager job with ECF, and then when I got hired at the pool, Michael spoke to the FME director at GVR, and he's like, hey, you're gonna have this kid interviewing there, but he's great, okay? I'm just giving you a heads up. I've known him for a while. He's great, but you're gonna be like, why did you send me this kid, right? And that helped me, but he wants to move up and he wants to grow. But so you already have the pipeline in there for you. Like AJ says, you're sharing with your leaders and such what your aspirations are, so they know. But in that retrospect, don't be discouraged. You may not get it on your first try or on your second try. Take that as a drive and motivation on what you can improve and what you can do better, so that the next time the opportunity comes around, it's yours.
Cool.
What do you guys think? Questions, thoughts, comments, anything?
They want to go to Thailand.
No, it's a really powerful message with some significant themes to it. It's, what I'm hearing is, it's about mindset. It's about commitment. It's about engagement. And it's about leadership. And it doesn't matter if somebody's watching you or not. If you're committed to that place, it doesn't matter if somebody's looking at you or not. You care about this place. So you stop and you pick up that wrapper on the floor. And it doesn't matter if somebody's watching, because it makes you feel better about the contribution that you're making. And those of us who run businesses are looking for people who care about making our organization better. And our organization becomes better because of the way we serve our customers or our clients. And if we trust that you're gonna pay that forward, then we're gonna look at you to advance you. And so I think there's some really powerful threads and a really great message that you're getting.
It's interesting you bring that up, Greg, because, you know, when I was hiring people, I didn't care about their work history or their experience. Skill sets I can teach. You cannot teach people to be caring. Because if you care about yourself, the company, and your job, that's invaluable, and that's something that I can't teach. So, you know, when you go outside and you get a job, and you may get thrown into a job that you have no idea what you're doing, if you care, you'll overcome all the obstacles and challenges that come your way. So just have a care, just be care, right? Because when you do that, you're gonna be successful.
And think about those of you who sat in on interviews this year or in the past, and you're actually interviewing the students on the other side of the table. Did you think, wow, that was the perfect answer? Or did you think, wow, I really think this person has the right characteristics. I value, like, this person is happy to be here, is humble, is excited to be here, they want to learn? Or did you just think like, wow, look at their resume? You don't think, nobody said like, ooh, look at their resume, they've had a job for 4 years, they must be good. No, it was that relationship you had when you were sitting down at that table with them, and you thought, I'm excited sitting here next to them, or wow, they're really passionate. So it's a feeling, it's not what you are on paper, and that's really important too.
Yeah, like that napkin on the floor, why do I pick it up? Because I don't want the guest walking behind me to see me walk by and not pick it up and like, wow, the people that work here don't even care about this place. Like, why would I? Like, it's embarrassing, right? It's not because, oh, what if my boss sees me or stuff? It's because you treat the place like you own it. You have a sincere ownership in it, and that's kind of you know, one of the lessons that I love to share. And so thanks for that note, Greg.
And I walked by, I went to a restaurant with the president of a property in New York, and vice president, and they did the same thing. You're walking by and they just pick it up. They don't wait for somebody to do it, they do it themselves.
Yeah, not my job, not my problem.
Right, so setting great example, and as you guys move up, always treat everybody equally. You know, whether they're cleaning the toilet or picking up or be a cashier, and you're vice president or president or the general manager, treat them all the same. Because some of these CEOs and some of these presidents of properties were dealers, were cleaners, were front desk. So you never know, and you never know. Sometimes people that were under you could become your boss.
And that happens a lot.
Great.
On the way up is
Actually, I have a perfect example for that.
Yeah, but if you treat them bad,
yeah,
guess what? When they become your boss, they gotta start treating you bad.
Great example if I can add to that, AJ.
Please.
So, I was an assistant manager at the pool at MGM for 2 summers. I wanted to be promoted. I didn't get that opportunity. The second year they brought in a manager. She was great to work with. She got hired a little late, I remember mid-April, so you know who was running that pool for the first month and a half? It was me. I was doing her job. When she started, I was training her. I was showing her, because I had been there for 2 years, so I already understood. So you may be awkward when you have to train your boss, like, man, like, I can't believe I'm training my boss when they should have just gave me this spot. But I took that as an opportunity I had trained a bartender or server, but I had never trained another manager, and it's different, right? When you have other managers that you work with or that you're helping. What's crazy about that is we worked together for 1 summer there. After that, I went to GVR. 1 year later, I was promoted to the director of beverage, and I hired her as the pool manager to report to me. So I reported to her, and a year later, she reported to me.
And that happens.
And like
quite
what
a bit.
AJ says, the same people you pass on your way up are the same people you pass on your way down, and we have a wonderful relationship. So.
Something that really stood out that Melissa said during the interviews is not what you see on paper, because we saw a lot of really good academic people that had 4.0s, you know, some 5.0, someone had a 5.0 GPA, and they look really good on paper, and then you meet them in person, they're just like completely different. So it's really important to assess a personality, not just based off what you see on paper, because some people didn't have the best grades or anything like that, but in person, like you said, great personality, you want to speak more with them, you want to get to know them more, and it's what the personality that stood out most to us. That's what I remember, right?
You're
How you
right.
make them feel.
Yeah,
how somebody
very
else
much.
feels.
Yeah. It's how you make someone feel. You don't remember what they tell you. You remember 10% of what they tell you, but 90% of how they made you feel. And even, we all just went to Tempe, and the valet guy, I remember the valet guy. I don't remember the vice president. I don't remember any of the other people we met. I met the valet. I remember the valet guy who heard we were going to the zoo, got us coupons for $5 off, and was so excited, like, oh, I've got stuff for you here, and brought us waters and was, anything we needed. And I remember that guy. He was happy and excited to be doing the best job that he could be doing.
Great example of how just putting in a little bit of extra effort, right? That
Yeah.
the author would say that's a Fred, and you'll see.
Well, and notice that in your everyday life. And people love to complain. I love to write letters when somebody does something great. The Starbucks down the block from here is the best Starbucks I've ever been to in my life. And I periodically write the manager's level letters, and just they put little you're amazing stickers on it a lot of times, or they are fast, and if they're not, they're apologetic, and I'm like, I just love these people. So I regularly write the manager, and I was just like, oh, you're hiring someone new. It was a little slower today, but your employees are just stepping it up so quickly, and their customer service was amazing. So recognize when people are doing a really great job, because people forget that.
And isn't this what hospitality is, right?
Another thing that stood out that you said, AJ, was treating the company like your own, and that really helps you have a different mindset. You're not just working for the company, but you're a part of it and you're representing it. And so having the mentality that this is my restaurant, this is my casino, really kind of changes the way that you work in that sense. And I really like that.
I think of in your world, Tony, if I'm making a French fry or I'm making a burger or whatever it might be, and there's the end cut of the tomato or the French fry has a little black speck on it. Would I serve that to myself? Would I serve that? If I own this place, would I serve that to my family? No, right? But you will see out there, I'm sure you see it today, the people that are just like, yep, that's okay to serve, right? Because they don't have that ownership. But you will look at it. Would I really give this to a guest? No, I'm not going to give that to someone that's paying to be here. So that all comes from having that mindset of caring about what you do in the details. So.
I went out to lunch with Eric Brady. He used to be on our board, and now he's out of California, so he's not anymore. His family owned Brady Linen, and one day we were, going out to lunch together, and in my head I was like, yeah, it's just in a family business, most boring job in the world, washing linen. And he was so passionate about why linen is the most important aspect, and he believed this, and I believe it now too, of the hospitality industry, and that he was at the core of everybody's experience. Because if you walk into a hotel and those sheets are dirty, that towel is dirty, your trip is ruined. They make the hospitality experience, and he was so passionate about it. I'm like, linens are so important. I was so engaged and energetic and energized by his passion, and I still feel that way. I now recognize that linens are super important, but I mean, other people would have been like, it's linens. And he was equally as excited about his giant washer and dryer. You could walk into it, and I would have been like, it's a washer dryer, it's some linens, you fold them, you put them on the shelf. He really felt the passion behind it, and that I was like, I want to be that. And I have a lot of energy. Everybody sees it. I am a little too much for many of our board
You should be
members.
drinking this coffee.
I need it. We had a whole coffee thing while we were away. But I was like, man, I feel that way about my job. And I didn't realize that other people feel that way about their job. I just thought you have fun jobs and not so great jobs. But literally, he was so excited about linens. And now I'm like, I look at linens and I realize the care and the thought behind each piece that is picked. And it was just affirming and life-changing over, sheets and towels. And so look at the people in your life who feel that exact same way and know that, yeah, maybe you're, at the South Point and it's just a job. And I used to feel that way about a lot of customer-facing jobs. I wasn't not good at it. That's why I'm not in the hospitality industry. But when you're excited to be there, it's sort of like a butterfly effect, where then you make the people around you happy to be there. I've been in the same position that has been the worst job in the world and the best job in the world. And it's because of the people around me, the people we work with, the energy we have. So you guys are all that nucleus and energy that you're going to bring it to guests, you're going to bring it to the people around you. Because if you're handing that milkshake to a server and that brings some energy and excitement, you actually transfer that to that person who's going to transfer it to the guest, who's going to bring it to the next thing, and it brings a much more positive experience to those guests around you. So remember that you are the one creating the entire ambience, no matter where you are in the organization.
You guys know a place called Pike's Place in Seattle?
Yes.
So Pike's Place is a fish
Birth of
market,
Starbucks.
right? And it's probably the most mundane job. People come in.
So 1 second. That's what offers that.
smells terrible, and it's a long hours. But what they start doing was they start approaching customers that are walking by, and then they start yelling and screaming and throwing fishes around. And people started freaking out, like, what the heck's going on here? And they were all having a great time, and as a result, the company became very successful and became kind of like a landmark. So even the most mundane job, if you have a right frame of mind and turn it into a fun job, you can have a lot of fun.
You guys will have to YouTube that. You can see the fish throwing. It's quite a sight to see.
Something similar to what AJ said. At my location, we have like different store numbers based off when they were constructed, and ours is number 88. And we read off orders through like 1 through 100, and then we set back to 1, right? And so once the customer, whoever has ticket number 88, when we call out the number, call number 88, and then after that, everyone in the line, like the lineup, everyone just screams 88 like at the same time, just to kind of make the customer feel special for being like the lucky number. So that's really good, making your job fun in a sense.
And it's a small thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
But they remember, they're like, oh, this is the store that yells out the
Yeah.
special number.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Any other thoughts? That's all I have for prepared remarks.
Besides like that Southern Glazers class, because now that I made the jump to restaurants and I kind of want to stick with it and move up the ranks that way, is there any other things you think that would have like benefited you looking for that management supervisor position?
Just reading on my own at home, YouTube.
Yeah, because I was like, I know nothing about like spirits or wine, and like now I'm starting to like look at it because I know that's an important part of it, because everything like pairings and things like
Yeah.
that definitely like makes the experience. Like
Yeah.
I've started learning that at Bazaar.
I'm not an expert in any of those fields, but I know a little bit about all of them,
Mhm.
and I would give you kind of the same advice. I learn better with in-person classes and in-person training, so I would definitely look at that and have Melissa connect you with Bruce and Jason at Southern with like the schedule and such. But just on your own, right? Investing and taking the time and putting in the effort. Learning on your own, YouTube, books. You don't even have to be a drinker. Just, go someplace and order 4 different beers. Don't drink 4 different beers. Just take a sip of them. You don't have to be, right? But what you're studying and what you're reading about, then you can kind of sample it, right? Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay. I see what I've learned, or what gives this beer a darker color, right? Than another one, for example.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, in-person classes work better for me, but just reading on your own and such, YouTube, and then involving yourself when you get into that business, right?
Mhm.
I'm sure it's a little bit harder for you right now, but I always asked, like when I had good bartenders in the steakhouse, hey, like, what do you know about these scotches or these whiskeys, or why is this one and this and such? And that kind of ties into what I talked about, like really being involved and being curious.
Mhm.
To say here I have like a property mixologist, no,
Not
or Bazaar.
They used to, but then she left. So like I've been kind of like learning from the bartenders. Like right now, because it's kind of slow, there's no conventions in town. So like on Monday they were like doing a battle with bartenders for like signature drinks and things like that. So they were doing like tastings to like show like how like the summer drinks are like more like citrusy and things like that, and like the difference between what they like offer more in like the winter time and things like that, and like how it changes seasonally.
Sure,
So like
yeah.
getting that little bit of knowledge, and then like still like talking to our directors and things like that, like crunching numbers and like understanding how that works and things like that.
Yeah, I think of seasonality, right? Like, what do we think of when we think of like holiday around time, right? Candy cane, peppermint, right? And then where do you take that? Oh, maybe I can make a peppermint martini. Maybe I can make peppermint cake, right? And I mean, we see it all over town during the holidays. And then summer rolls around. What do we think? We think of strawberries and pineapples, right? We serve hollowed out pineapple drinks, right? Just thinking of what goes well with the seasons, or what you think about when those holidays come around.
My hot chocolate would not taste good in that seasonal pineapple. hollowed
Exactly.
out.
And like, if you don't know, like I've had many times where my boss asked me, hey, what are we doing for this holiday? I'm like, I don't know. What do people typically eat for that, right? Like, you may not know. Just start researching, and oh, I see. Oh, that's typically ate for that, or that's done for that. Whatever it might be. But yeah, just investing in yourself kind of goes back into that. But in-person classes, and then just learning on your own, right? Books, YouTube, and such.
I think reading about it first is very important, because then you'll have a basic knowledge about different types, and then actually go into class, and then when you taste it and experience it,
then you'll have a better understanding. So have a base knowledge first.
I'm more of a visual learner, so when I see on YouTube and you see the big tanks of how the beer's fermenting and stuff, you really like put 2 and 2 together. So that's kind of the advice I'd give.
Sounds like a winery tour to me.
AJ wants to go. Any other questions for me?
This was really good.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for your input. Nothing? Everyone's real quiet. I guess I was boring.
No, I
You
think
covered
we're
it
still
all.
processing.
Far from that.
Still processing?
I
Okay.
think so too.
Good. Kyle, I can send you an example of what we use for a recipe book, recipe Bible, with like a template or something. You can just use it as an example, right? It's very, very simple, but use that as kind of an inspiration for you to kind of build what you're doing now. I think whoever you're presenting it to will be wowed.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any takeaways? Thoughts? It's the conversation part, it's hard when it's just me.
I try to include conversation, which I think there was plenty
No,
of.
it worked.
Which I think there was plenty of. So.
I definitely, just like while you were talking, I was like trying to think of like ways to incorporate more of hospitality to what I do in the kitchen. Like for example, like the desserts right now, we don't really offer, at the restaurants I used to work at before, we usually offered something whenever it's like an occasion, like a birthday, anniversary, or just like a business meeting. We usually send out like a complimentary dessert or like a complimentary little something just like to make the customers really special. And at this restaurant I'm working at right now, they don't really offer that. So I think that might be something that I could offer to, you know, impress the customers at the restaurant that I'm working at. And it's just.
What kind of restaurant is it?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh, it's a restaurant on Spring Mountain in Marville. It's called Yui Eromai. It's a traditional.
Japanese?
Yeah. It's a Tokyo sushi restaurant.
What would you say is kind of the price point?
I think our lowest menu will be around 78, and it can go all the way up to 300.
Oh, is it omakase? I see.
I mean, typically, right, for those desserts, you may not see them at like a quick dine or something, right? But an upscale dining place, it's definitely done for the most part. Do they do something at Bazaar as well?
Yeah.
For birthday, right?
Yeah, because they send out like little birthday.
You sent a little
pastries,
dessert?
too.
Yeah. So, very typically done. But it's funny you bring that up, Kyle, because, of course, you know, I talk about thinking financially and such. We used to do like a creme brulee, I don't know, maybe the size of about this or so for birthday and anniversary. And I told the chef to make a smaller one. So now it's about that small, and it still has a little happy birthday, happy anniversary with a candle. So it's still a nice touch, and then nobody notices. But I cut the cost in half, right? But of course, you know, I present it. We talk about the pros and cons and stuff, and sometimes people are just happy that they received something. Oh, and they sent us out a small little dessert, right? But no, great example, great idea. It'll depend on, you know, the leadership and the vision, what you think they'll do.
For sure.
And if you do propose something, I would try, if you can, have a somewhat what it costs, so you can tell them, hey, this is how much it would cost us to produce one of these. It's $1, it's $1.20, they're gonna want to
Is
know
it for
that.
sale or is it just as given away as a part of the omakase experience?
For the dessert, it's included with the
Right.
the menu price.
Yeah.
Right now, the dessert I made is about $1.66 per order. So I was thinking that we could mark it up to around 10. So it's the size of like around this. So it's a pretty good hefty tart. But I think like $10 would probably be like a suffice around price for something like this at a restaurant, you know, who's serving, you know, $300 meals, and then you get like, oh, this really nice looking tart. And I think that will be a little bit more like Instagrammable, like something you can take a picture of that looks really pretty, you can post on social media, you know, get our word out there a little bit more. We don't really have that big of a advertising, because I think the chef really wants to keep it like a hidden space. But I think just like incorporating a little bit like, oh wow, or like this looks really gorgeous, I want to share it. I think that's something we're going to like bring up more people to come in, because I think a couple days ago we only got like 3 customers come in, and you know that's not really great for the business financially. And I was thinking like ways to bring in more customers and how to appeal to more customers to just come in, you know.
Yeah. the chef I worked with, he used to work in Florida at a very fancy steakhouse, and they would do the big T-bone steaks, right, long T-bones, and they would engrave in there, "Will you marry me?" That people would come and plan, right? What a great idea that doesn't cost them much money, right? And then their steak would come out, and that's what it would say on there. So just kind of something along your lines, right? Finding a way to put in a little bit extra effort and give them a wow moment. Like, think about when it's that couple's anniversary, where are they going for dinner? At that restaurant, right? Every single time, from that one moment they've created a guest for life.
Great point.
No one has anything else?
Anything else, guys? You don't have to. We'll do a photo before everyone goes, if that works.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Let's do it on the side of the table. I'll pick up some of the garbage. I got it.
So you gotta go on that side, 'cause,